Okay, so I'm going to do a non-spoiler free review of Spider-Man Brand New Day as I had the opportunity to go watch it in theaters, and I'm going to let you guys know what I thought about the film, the good, the things I think also that could have been improved, the things I liked, the things I didn't like as much. But I'm going to generally just give you an overview of the film. I'm not going to go into too deep plot heavy spoilers or anything like that. So this is a safe video for you to watch if you just want a spoiler free summarization or a bit of a spoiler free take on what went down in the film, or if you should go see it yourself. Starting off, something I did like about the films was the action scenes, and I liked how early on in the film, very at the very start, you get immediately some action scenes, but then like it's a little bit serious, but not too much. Like at the first action scene you get, okay, it gives you a nice little bit of a warm up, but then it's followed by like Spider-Man having to deal with a rogues gallery of villains, and as they play it off like through fight to fight, it becomes more light-hearted. So it's like it's like that sort of classical Spider-Man early cartoon morning, like Saturday morning cartoon vibes, where Spider-Man doing quips. He's like, it's not taken too seriously, like in the early introductory fights. So you sort of like, it gets you a bit of refamiliarized to, oh yeah, this is like the Spider-Man's new routine as well, while he's like adapting to the fact that nobody knows him anymore from the previous film storyline. But I really like the fact that it's also during these first early fights in the film, it almost feels like sort of like overly exaggeratedly cartoony in the ways like especially with some scenes you'll see like with the prosthetics they did with like the character Tombstone in the movie. He like I really like how they portrayed him in the film. It was a really good portrayal, and if you see how sort of like it almost seems like very close to the actual source material as well, like in terms of the prosthetics and the costume and the makeup design. So like you're not take you know oh yeah this is Tombstone, but you're not taking it too seriously. Like oh the overly menacing Tombstone, because like the way they've done it is just like something straight out of the comic books or straight out of the TV shows. So but then it eases you in a little bit in that regard. So like the first bit of the film is very just like establishing okay what Peter's life is like now that nobody knows him. It's very much just a what and then what is the ramifications of that going forward, and how is he coping and dealing with that from the previous films. And then it starts to get a bit serious later on in the film, but I really just liked how it first started off just very calm and like more casual, and the jokes. Like I wish we could get like more Spider-Man films that like sort of that braced more of the more quips, if that makes sense. Like more of that sort of like jokey cartoon, like not taking itself too seriously as well. Because sure, Spider-Man is a serious, like he fights crimes and villains, but there's also an aspect of the comedy which is crucial as well, like to his characterization as well throughout like the TV shows and like the comic books. It's less so. I guess it's less so an extent part of his characterization in some of the earlier films, because they try to play more into the nerdy aspect of it all, like oh Peter's like shy, reserved, nerdy sort of aspect, and him discovering or learning how to use these abilities, and like the balancing his real life and the Spider-Man life. So it's less about, you might get a quip here and there, but it's less about focus on the quips and the comedy of it. But the film is not just all comedy. That's what, but or lightheartedness. So you do after the rogue gallery of villains, it does the film does take up a bit more pace wise in terms of progressing the story forward, and you're then introduced to a few new characters who and a few returning characters, but within a new context of established, pre-established world of nobody knowing who Spider-Man is anymore, and it's just one of those cases where you're also along this journey with Peter Parker as well, from his perspective of nobody knows who he is, but then also something's going on in the city, and then he has to try to figure out and try to solve this mystery of what's going on at the exact same time as trying to figure out where his place is now within the city and within his world, with this new framework of just taking the Spider-Man job full time and dedicating his life to that. So it does get this. It does get quite emotional as well in that regard. So I feel like as well, like where they also borrowed things like from other Spider-Man films in terms of cinematography. So you see a lot of shots as well, like that you can compare to the Beyond the Spider-Verse scenes as well, and and shots that you can compare to previous Spider-Man films as well, or Spider-Man adjacent stuff as well. So there, and as the directors were talking about, and the producers who were making the film, they're talking about when they were doing the thing about cinematography, they also looked at the Spider-Man video games and they tried to see if they could replicate some of these scenes from the video games, or even try to replicate one-for-one scenes from the comic book covers as well. And they did a really good job at doing that as well. Like I like the slow motion effects, so you can actually take the time to actually really appreciate that. Oh yeah, they're trying to replicate this scene from the comic book cover. But if they did it too fast and they didn't have that sort of that slow motion effect, you wouldn't be able to take the time to really appreciate it. Like, and you wouldn't be able to appreciate the action in that scene as much. Like, if it just goes by too fast. But yeah, generally, I did really enjoy the action scenes. Like, I would say out of all the Spider-Man films, like in terms of like live action Spider-Man, this has to be one of the best in terms of just pure fight choreography, especially towards the later half of the film. You'll see from a Spider-Man film when it just comes to like, just Spider-Man against like a group of villains, or a villain or a single villain in some scenes as well. You'll find the best combat scenes and the most like creative use of his web shooters. That's something I always wanted to see conveyed on the big screen, because people usually know Spider-Man as just like, he has like the swinging, he has the shooting the webs that like to sort of restrain, but he throughout the film he's constantly changing as well. So I would say that's another a theme of the film, change. So there's a constant reoccurring theme of change. So I think Spider-Man's changing his environment constantly, he's learning new things constantly throughout the film, and also he's using his web shooters and changing in new ways that he's never done before, and sort of like a breath of fresh air as well, that from the previous films, that's like you get to see this new take of how Spider-Man tries to use his abilities from beforehand, because if you sort of like, if you've been a fan of Spider-Man for a long enough time, you sort of know like a few of his moves, but they try to pull some new tricks with the web shooters as well, as he's also trying to unlock his abilities at the same time. Something I feel like as well, like instead of just only just talking about the things I like, I feel they could have also improved upon is some areas of the plot. I don't want to go too deep into it, but I feel like some characters could have like got more closure towards the end of the film, or whatnot. They did get enough closure, like, but it's just like it left you with more, like the way I'm trying to word it is, it left you with more questions than fully completed answers. So you did get some answers and a little bit of closure, like especially with Peter Parker, Spider-Man, and another character. Towards the end, they have like a very deep emotional moment, which then that sort of resolves the overarching conflict of the movie. but you still then wonder what happened to that other character, or what is their next steps, like what's going to be happen to them next towards the end of the film, and that just leaves it open. So I feel like this film was more like a launch pad, like towards other stories they want to tell. It is self-contained, like it does have a beginning, like a beginning of the plot, and it does come to a natural conclusion towards the end. But it just feels like as well they're leading you up to a bit more, because they're also entering territory of like stuff they've never done before as well, in terms of like having Spider-Man interact with other types of characters within his universe. So they're also sort of trying to set up that at the same time. So that's why I would say the theme of constant change is something I took away from the film, like as well, by watching it. And I feel like that's what they're trying to do. They're constantly trying to head towards a new change for this version of Peter Parker Spider-Man, while also trying to give you bits of the classics that you like as well. Like they're trying to change it, but they're also trying to give you enough of the classic stuff that you like the classic, like a suit that's reminiscent of the classic suit, but it's been changed, and scenes and things from the classic comics and TV series, but with a new updated twist or new updated sort of take to those characters as well in live action, because you're not going to get the full, because it's live action, you're not going to get like the full one for one of the character, like as the in terms of like visuals, because like it's in 3D space, but they're going to try to adapt it as best as they can. And I would just say, like, I really really enjoyed the film in terms of the action scenes. Like, it's hard to describe like how much I was so ecstatic at some scenes in the film. And when like I was there in the theater, and it was pretty packed, like pretty almost every seat was taken up, and there was even times where people were like, "Let's go!" and they like during the action scenes, and they were super hyped as much as I was hyped as well for these action scenes. And they were like, "Yo!" So you can just tell that they really thought about the choreography of these fights, instead of just like having the usual, okay, he's going to just like try to contain or try to restrain the villain, and that will be it. There's more like more smart ingenuity to the fights as well, because he's also using more environmental awareness as well. So like you'd see him using objects as well that are around him to also engage in the combat scenes as well, not just using his powers solely as well, or even teaming up with other characters throughout the film to do like sort of combo moves against like trying to defeat others. So it was nice to see that as well, like Spider-Man going for more like a team effort throughout this film as well, because I think that teamwork and also other people as well, like the relationships you have with other people, is another theme within this film. And Peter is sort of like trying to come to grasp with also letting people back into his life after people have forgotten who he is. So he's sort of relearning teamwork in as well is constantly changing. So I'd say like I'll say like the themes would be then, it would be constant change, teamwork, opening yourself back up to relationships and allowing people back into your life as well, and just being more open to connecting with others. There's also themes of like overworking yourself as well in there. So others throughout the film are constantly telling Peter he needs to take breaks, or he needs to relax a bit as well on doing Spider-Man full time. So there's also it's like a film where he's isolated, but it's like he's not fully isolated, because there's people out there who still care for him and are there, who constantly are supporting him throughout the film, even though he he ideally wants to isolate himself at the start, but he's drawn more and more back into his what was previously established before, like in terms of his relationships with the people he knew. But I would say it's definitely a good film. I'd say to go and watch. I'm not gonna go too deep, any deeper than that, really, in terms of story or plot threads. I've tried to be as vague as I can be for the in terms of the storylines or things that happen throughout the film that are more plot heavy focused elements. So to try to give you guys as much of a spoiler free review while just covering the basics of what the film underlines as its plot summary. But yeah, no, I'd recommend going to watch it. What I'd say if I had to rank it, I would say it would be. It's better than the Amazing Spider-Man films. I feel like it's better than those set of films in terms of like its ranking. I'd rank them higher than that. It also takes you back to more like the Tobey Maguire sort of era of Spider-Man in that regard. So like I would say, it's very reminiscent. It gives you very though like the very like early half of it gives you so very early Tobey Maguire vibes, especially with him learning how to use his new abilities as well that he's discovering. So it's like I would say it's up there close to the Tobey Maguire early films, but so it surpasses the Andrew Garfield ones, definitely up there with the Tobey Maguire ones. Without say, but I wouldn't say, to me at least personally, on my personal opinion, I wouldn't say it's better than the Spider-Verse films. I would say it's like below the Spider-Verse films, but not. But then the Spider-Verse films is kind of hard to compete with because it's also in that regard because they're trying to achieve two different things. One's live action, one's animated. But Spider-Verse also does have some live action elements to it, but it's like they're trying to also go in two different story directions in a way, or thematical theme wise in a way. So like they're trying to complement each other, but also tell two different stories at the same time. Something I like, there were certain references as well I was hoping to see throughout the film that would have further maybe deepened connected that universe with the Spider-Verse films, but we never really fully got there, like to any deeper connections that would have hinted towards the Spider-Verse films throughout the film. But I think that's one of the things I think they could have done to improve it. Is like, because we've already got the established plot from Across the Spider-Verse, and the film that comes after it, the next Spider-Man film that comes after it, doesn't really dabble as much into that framework that was laid in Across the Spider-Verse. But I'm assuming they're waiting for Beyond the Spider-Verse to maybe connect Brand New Day 2. When Beyond the Spider-Verse comes, maybe that will bring the context behind Brand New Day into a new light or into a new perspective, like how Across the Spider-Verse brought more context into the previous Spider-Man films. So I'm sure that will be the case when Beyond the Spider-Verse inevitably arrives. We're going to get more context on what Brand New Day was about and how it connects to the greater Spider-Verse storyline that they're trying to tell currently. But yeah, no, I was expecting a little, like some more connection with Beyond the Spider-Verse. Even though I didn't really get those like references or those connections that I was hoping, I did enjoy also some of the more down-to-hearted emotional scenes, and I feel like they borrowed a lot of that as well, like or were trying to take inspiration from the Spider-Verse films emotional scenes as well, because during the Spider-Verse films there are a lot of action scenes, but there also are down-to-earth family or emotional scenes between characters and the people in their lives as well, or friends, families, members as well. So I think like they tried to also sprinkle some of that as well into Brand New Day. So there were scenes I would say that are pretty emotional or will get you to to be in your feelings. But yeah, generally, I would say go watch the film. It's worth the watch. The action is some of the best that has been in the Spider-Man Spider-Man movies, live action ones ever. So that alone just blew my mind of how they managed to do the action. If you're going you're not going to be disappointed. That's all I'm going to say. You're just not going to be disappointed. You're going to be amazed about that looks so cool, and you're going to just have your mind just like completely taken back and be like, yo, that is so awesome. How they managed to pull off some of these like scenes and fights or choreography or attacks. But yeah, I'd recommend it. I enjoyed myself, and that's my review of Spider-Man: Brand New Day. It's a good film, worth watching. Go see it in theaters, and soon we'll soon get news on Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, and when that happens, I'll be here on my channel to report it as well. So like, subscribe as well for those updates on Spider-Man films and Spider-Man news, and let me know what you thought about Spider-Man Brand New Day in the comments below. What did you think? It was good? Did you think it was bad? Do you agree with me on my review and on my take on the film? Or if you disagree as well, that's fine. Just let me know below. And until next time, bye.